Kho Gaye Hum Kahan. It's a really sweet film that you needed this Diwali, Christmas, New Year season. I have Adarsh, Ananya, as well as Sid with me. What's up, you guys?
All good,
How are you
sir.
doing?
Part of the reason why I really like the film is because it talks about what we're sucked into every day of our lives. And suddenly the film made me think, how deep am I into this social media tangle, this mess? How much am I really doing for myself? How much am I doing for people who listen to me or watch me? And how much am I just doing zabardasti? And I came up to the conclusion that a lot of the stuff I'm doing is just random, which I can do without. Did you go through that kind of catharsis, Ananya, at any point after this film or during it, saying, I'm diving too deep into this?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is coming to me now, and I do think it's a byproduct of the film that we shot, because I was exactly like how my character Ahana is. I had this whole spiral of seeking validation on Instagram. I used to be very excitable by people reacting to my stories or liking my posts or commenting. Everything would be about that. Everything would be about posting. And even if I went somewhere, you know, the typical take your picture of your food. On a holiday also, I'd be taking pictures. And at least this year, I don't know what exactly the reason is. I do attribute a lot of it to the film, but I feel like a lot of change has come, and I've come to realize these things, and I'm kind of focusing on what truly does make me happy, because that happiness is very fleeting and it's not permanent and it's not real. You know, you kind of have to snap out of it and spend time with people that actually matter and focus on the real relationships. You know, how connected are you actually with people? That's something that I'm figuring out this year.
So I believe Arjun was DA to Zoya and Gully Boy.
Yeah.
So were you guys mates at that point in time? Normally it
Yeah.
happens, you know, ADs or DAs will always come and talk to the young actors. Say,
Yeah.
man, I've got a script idea. Do you think this is going to happen? Did you ever discuss script ideas at that time?
He was the one who actually, when I got selected for the film, he was the first guy who came in and, you know, so Zoya did like a workshop. So he was the guy who actually was giving me cues and all. And that's why, and it was his also like first film with Zoya, and so was mine. So we kind of bonded there, and then we became friends through the, you know, the shoot of Gully Boy. And by the end of that film, we were doing like promotions, and there were a few musical, you know, concerts, and that's when the idea popped up, because we realized that people are not, you know, living the moment. They are all just caring about recording, you know, that, oh, I'm seeing this, I'm here. So, you know, to kind of seek validation. So that's when the idea popped in his head, and then straight up, I didn't see him for a year. We got busy in our things, and he called me and he sent me the script, and I was like, wow, let's do this.
You know, what also I like a lot, Adarsh as well as Sid, your characters, is the father-son relationship there.
Yeah.
You know, yours is totally different.
Yeah.
But yours is a very, I want to be rich and famous, but my dad is also middle class.
Yeah.
And then things happen, and, you know, obviously perceptions change and this and that. And I think that was a really interesting household to be a part of, also because those two actors, you know, Maurya, yeah, man. I mean, I've seen them on stage at Prithvi, and
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
stuff they put out is just
Yeah, they used to
amazing.
work with Makarand sir.
Yeah, he used to work in Max Plays.
Yeah.
And those scenes must have been like amazing for you to do as an actor.
It actually felt very personal, sir, to be honest. I feel like when I moved to Bombay, there was a lot of cultural chaos for me that happened in my mind. And I took a lot of pressure very early on in life to be accepted and to feel the same and to wear the same clothes and to dress up the same way my peers were dressing up in school. Whereas I came from a more modest background than most of my peers in school. And a lot of how Neil behaves with his father was actually how I would be at my house. Because I would constantly be like, oh, I don't have those shoes that this dude's wearing, those Nike kicks or whatever, you know. So I feel like a lot of that is very personal. Like even things like when Neil talks to his father disrespectfully about, you know, wanting to go by train, and whereas like it's a personal choice, you know. Maybe my parents did really want to go by train, or maybe not, but it's their choice. But then I had a problem with their decision, which doesn't make sense, because I was projecting my own insecurities on them, and I was doing that in life.
And then when you
Bombay
grow up,
did
you
that.
realize the most memorable journeys are train journeys.
Train journey.
And you have to thank your parents for taking you on a train journey.
Yeah, and
Because
more
nobody
than-
seems to be taking trains anymore, man.
Yeah, and
Everybody just takes flights. And
I
it's
feel like it's just very
crazy.
important for people to let people live and be the way they are, and you know, like let them be happy in whatever they want to do. Like I can't be projecting my insecurities and what I want in life on my parents. It's really wrong. I think that with age and with life, you sort of learn those things.
Which is why they call it a coming of age film.
Yes.
It's quite sweet. So I'm really surprised because, I was trying to do a wiki, a Google on Rohan Gurbakhshani. Turns out he's done more Hollywood projects than he has projects here.
Has he?
Yeah. His name is on a lot of credits on IMDb, man. Like little parts in
That's
soaps and this and that.
Because he went to acting school abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys didn't discuss that when you were on set?
Come
Never
up.
mentioned.
I knew he studied.
Yeah.
He was at drama school. I know that because that did come up quite a bit. But no, he didn't tell
He never
us
spoke about
these.
his work outside.
Yeah, but it's interesting to throw an actor like that in the mix because he's relatively unknown.
Yeah.
With the three of you
So
who have
good,
an
though.
established fan base, and those again, your relationship with him, that whole track has turned out really nice. And there are times when, to me, I think this is your best performance thus far. Especially the scenes when you're absolutely alone, when these boys are not in the room. When you're breaking down or when you're with yourself and the camera. And there's this one particular scene, I mean, it's not even a spoiler, where your parents come and you've obviously fibbed to them saying you're going in for a work call, a Zoom call. But you've actually gone, done a change, done a photograph and come back. And I'm like, how often do we do that shit?
Yeah.
And that's a very poignant moment. I wonder if you felt that same way. I mean, sometimes audiences get moved by things, but actors don't.
No,
I don't know if it
definitely.
did.
I feel like the audience also gets moved because it does resonate
Yeah.
with the actor, and it felt very real for me. A lot of those things that happened, especially the relationship with my boyfriend in the film, that insecurity and that vulnerability and that feeling of loneliness and holding on to something so tight. These are feelings, heartbreak. These are feelings that I've felt in my life before. So, and I didn't know how strongly I had felt those things until I played Ahana, and I was like, this is really coming from way too real a place, But it was very helpful for me because it was cathartic in a way, It kind of helped me let out a lot of feelings because I don't do that often. I'm like a alone in my room crying sort of person. I don't like to show emotions too much in front of people, but we're lucky that we're actors and we have like an outlet to let those emotions and those feelings out. But it was very relatable, and a lot of people are also, finding that relatable, especially this line that I say in the trailer, which doesn't actually have to be only about the relationship. It's about, he's like, why do you keep looking? And I was like, I don't know, I can't stop. And I feel like so many of us feel that way. We're in this loop and this trap and we don't know how to get out of it, We're looking at things, we're buying into things that aren't really making us happy. It's just making us sadder, but we're in it, we can't really get out of it.
Sid, I was having this, I can talk about it because it's Archie's, the same platform. I was having this conversation with Zoya about the Archies. And I said, Archie Andrews, a lot of people look at him as a philanderer. Betty is in love with him, Veronica's in love with him, he's playing the field. Reggie Mantle also is a bit of a cool... And she said something to me, she said, having multiple partners and being flirtatious and sleeping around is very 80s and 90s. I mean, in the modern era, the coolest guy in the class necessarily is not that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Cool.
Yeah, monogamy is cool, like she said. Yeah. And it really resonated with me. So she said, I couldn't have possibly made my Archies and my Reggie like that. I actually made it a confusing situation. Ke boss, wo khud confused hai. Am I in love with her or that? Which leads me to your character. I mean, often we're judgmental about people who are Casanovas, and I don't want to give any spoilers away. Where I'm getting to is just this. We're judgmental about people who sleep around, who have multiple partners, who are obsessing on Tinder. But there could be a psychological reason why that is happening. I'd like you to comment on that.
I mean, see, what my character believes or what my character's journey is completely different from how I am in real life. In fact, most of the characters I've played till now have not been any close to who I am. I'm a guy who believes in monogamy. I'm a guy who...
Do you judge people like Imad? Do we judge people like Imad? Or do you say, man, there's got to be something more? I mean, how can we pass judgment on people like Imad?
No, the thing is, the journey, through the lens of these characters, I've kind of developed empathy for them in a way where I understand where they're coming from. And that's my only learning, May it be Gehraiyaan, where it was infidelity. And again, in this film, there's a bit of that. So I understand, but I try to, I just leave it to when they say cut. That's all it is. I don't start believing in the ideology. Or yes, I understand everybody has a personal journey and they have their personal problems, and because of what their actions or their choices are, affected. But I mean, for me, that's the fun of being an actor. Like, you can actually step into a person's shoes and actually see the world through their lenses, and that's something which I love about my job. That not being able to be myself, and that's my escapade. Other than that, I mean, I can just feel for them and I can represent them because I've played those characters. But I don't know. I mean, in my life, I mean, as who I am, it doesn't give me peace to be doing, things like that. And because I have come from because where I come from, I've been raised by two beautiful people, my parents, very functional family. So for me, the idea of love is that, I want to grow old with that one person. And I see, whenever I look back or look forward to who I am with, I always see myself sitting on a bench with like wrinkled hands, old people, listening to music someplace. So for me, that is the idea of that. That's for Siddhant. That's
To me, also what I felt through Adarsh, your character, through Neil Pereira's character, is how easily we judge influencers. How easily we judge maybe even the Auries of this world. Again, let's not get into spoilers, but I like the fact that Neil then understands her ultimately. You know what I mean? He understands why a Lala or an influencer does what they do. I mean, it's a job at the end of the day. They have to create influence, they have to increase their followers. It's almost like a business, How, personally, how do you, like Adarsh, view, what do you think of influencers? You're not an influencer, but I'm just saying.
So I also would like to add that yesterday when I was watching the film, I realized that after a very long time, the credit of being the biggest asshole in a film was taken away by Rohan, which I'm so glad about, because after every film that I've been part of, people walk out hating on me, being like, you were such a creep, or you were an asshole, or you made me angry. And for once, it felt really nice to not make people angry. Coming to your question, I think the way I look at influencers is that it's something that I won't be able to do. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of stripping yourself down completely, and like showing who you truly are to the world. Or even if you are playing a character, it's still a lot of effort to build and maintain that character constantly. Interestingly, Lala had a very good backstory that's not part of the film. But the backstory actually was that she comes from a very middle class family, used to work for a call center, and she pays for her sister's education. So there was a scene in the film that's gotten edited out where she has a conversation with her mother, and the only thing her mother is asking her is that, have you sent the money for the fees? She doesn't ask her, are you happy? What's up in your life? No life updates. It's straight to the point. She's like, पैसे transfer कर दिए क्या? अच्छा और ad क्यों नहीं किया इस महीने? That's all she's concerned about. So to me, again, as you spoke about him, right? Like, there's so much backstory to why people behave a certain way, or to what a person has chosen to do in his life. So maybe for Lala, it was coming from a very financially insecure place, and she found some comfort in being an influencer, and she was good at it, and she did that.
The beauty of having platonic friends like, this gang, is that I've always felt that the woman in the gang is the most mature one. Especially when the guys fight. She's the one who sees through it, saying, this is so
petty and
this is such a He-Man kind of brawl. Why are you doing this? But at the same time, she can be quite foolish in her personal life, which is where these guys turn around and call her out and say, how's it going? And the movie must be nostalgic to you, Ananya. I mean, all of us have had these wonderful friends who we went to school with, hung out with, gave hugs to, and this and that. So, did a wave of nostalgia sweep over you when the script first came to you?
100%. I think that's what drew me to the script was the sense of nostalgia. Even though it's a film so modern and today, there's so much nostalgia attached to it. You know, be it the way that we dress and the art and everything about it, the old Mumbai feel to the film. So a lot of it reminded me of my friendships because, like Neil, Imad and Ahana, I've grown up with the same friends and I'm still friends with my best friends that I was friends with since we were young. And there are obviously fights in the group and there are dynamics that are constantly changing, but everyone always comes back to each other and you know you're still rock solid. And at the end of the day, like I think all of us want people to leave this film and feel like I just want to go and hug my friend, you know, because at the end of the day that's the most important thing. That's what's kept me sane in my life so far, is the friendships that I have. And what I found interesting about Ahana was actually that she's so strong when it comes to her friends and the work that she does, and she's so sorted as a person, but then when it comes to love and her heart, she's a mess and she's weak and she's vulnerable. And that's relatable to me also, I think, as a person. Yeah.
Well done on the comedy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when Sapan used to be part of a group called East India Comedy.
Yeah.
I used to keep them, inviting them into studio, do gags, you know, laughs. Of course, we had to tape them because we take out the expletives. But it was just great fun. I used to do some VOs for their shows and things like that. There was him, there was Saurabh
Karan.
Pant. Yeah, you know, a bunch of them, Azim Marathwala. And I know that life is totally different. I mean, those guys are just fantastic. Was all the writing done by Sapan, or did you also add, once you got those lines and said, maybe I can bang it here, do a punch here? Did you add in terms of lines?
I think it was primarily Zoya and Arjun who knew what they wanted to say, and then it was Sapan who kind of put those pointers there that these are the jokes. How so you want to address a certain thing, you know, the idea is to address it through this stand-up, and then Sapan came in and he wrote the jokes, and then I came in, and then you have to. What do you say, like apnana hota na usko to make it yours. It's because this is not a biopic. I'm not kind of, so I had to reimagine myself that what if I was a stand-up comedian. So even if the line or the joke is landing there, how would I do it if I had to do it? So उसमें आगे पीछे एक दो कहा कि वो सारी चीज़ें the way I would do it. That's all my contribution in that, and everything else is I think Sapan, Zoya and Arjun. My challenge was to kind of make it sound that it's actually this is what I do. And for that I had to like shadow him for like around three months, and then I did write my own set, but not for the film, just to practice it out. And we went to Habitat in Bandra,
nice.
and I just went. He was like, you need to perform.
Like an open mic session.
Yeah, so I just went
Cool.
in, and obviously we had taken the phones out so that nobody records it. So I did like a couple of those stand-up gigs with my own set. You know, I had written my own set, and it was well received. So I was like, okay, then I gained a little bit of confidence, and then we tried one with the jokes of the film, live. So yeah, that kind of gave me a lot of confidence, because I don't think it's an easy job. It's, I think, one of the most challenging characters because of the journey, also because of the skill. He's a stand-up comic. It's not easy. I mean, I thought rapping was difficult, and then this came my way. And trust me, the first time I went up on the stage to Habitat, and I was like, oh my, how do I, and you have to keep saying, and the silences are haunting.
Yeah.
Like you say something so that they laugh, so you just say something.
Oh God, I can't even imagine.
So yeah, and then I made my, way through it. But yeah, I tried.
What I loved about the film is that it deals with his crisis in a humorous manner.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say more because it's a
Yeah,
spoiler, but I just thought that crisis was dealt with so beautifully. Yeah. You know, it could have gone, other movies have gone there, and it's ended up being a crying, tense, overbearing kind of thing. It was just so breezily done. So, well done, all the makers.
That's Sapan. Kudos to Sapan.
Yeah,
I mean,
my last question's got to be about. I remember speaking to Nasir Saab, Nasiruddin Shah, the great Nasiruddin Shah. He had built his body for a movie called Jalwa.
Jalwa.
Dekho Dekho Ye Hai Jalwa. That's the famous song, the Archana Puran Singh and him. I mean, it's one of those kitschy, cheesy 80s films. He says he hated it. He said if there's one thing in his acting career he hated was going to the gym for 1 year. And he's really muscular. Go and watch that film. I'm sure it's on some OTT scene. So did you hate it? Did you start enjoying it? Did you go halfway? I don't know. Were you ever a gym rat before this? I know I've seen you do cartwheels and stuff in your home tree and in your backyard and things like that, but this is different, right?
So I've always actually enjoyed being physically active. I've always been, I used to be an athlete in school, used to run, etc. But I have never taken gym as seriously as I had to for this. I feel like I just took it up as a challenge, more than anything else. I was just interested in transforming myself physically. So it became more about my ego and about that. Which I really enjoyed, but now I think it's messed with my head. It's made me a bit dysmorphic.
He can't stop. This boy cannot stop.
It's
You're
made me
still
a
at
bit.
it, huh?
It's made me a bit dysmorphic because
I thought film over means you would have stopped.
it's affected me unhealthily actually.
He can never see himself now. That happens.
So it's affected me unhealthily in two ways, with my body and with the phone. Before Kho Gaye Hum Kahan, I didn't post as regularly as I've started while filming for it and post. I've started caring much more about my social media since, and it's the film that's changed this in me. And that's what happens,
Reverse psychology.
when you do a film, you don't know whether something. I mean, there's so much good that has come out, but these two things have also happened.
I didn't download Tinder.
Sure, but I feel like it's affected me mentally somewhere, like because before that I never used to think about how whether my core is looking good and things like that. But then once I saw that my body could look a certain way and people started giving me that validation, they were like, dude, you're looking so good, man, like your
Oh, he's going down the Ahana route.
people are talking about my jawline, etc. And I'm not I've never been in that place as an actor. But hearing all this, because I never had that, it suddenly made me feel so good that now I'm like, shit, I don't have that jawline anymore and I don't have those abs anymore. It's weird, man. I don't want to be in that trap, honestly.
As long as vanity doesn't take over. That's
No,
all.
I don't think vanity will take over. I just want to get out of that.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
94.3 Radio 1.